"You traitor. I feel so relieved now that you're gone." These were the words my boss said to me when I was falsely accused and fired from the company. At that time, I thought it was the end of my life, but I never imagined such a turn of events. My name is Robert. I worked for a stationery company, designing stationery products. I've loved drawing since I was little. When I was in kindergarten, I used to draw lots of pictures on drawing paper with crayons my parents bought me. This didn't change as I grew up. In middle school, I joined the art club. The art club was mostly girls, so at first I felt a bit awkward, but I soon became friends with another boy in the club, David. He also loved drawing since he was little. Talking about our favorite art with David was the highlight of my days. After graduating from high school, I went to a vocational school to study design. The level of my peers was high, but that only served as great motivation for me. When it came time to start job hunting, I chose this stationery manufacturer as my top choice. I thought it would be wonderful if the products I designed were sold and used by people. I resonated with the company's philosophy of creating designs that delight customers, so I decided to apply. I was overjoyed when I got the job offer. "Good for you," David congratulated me. We had remained close even after graduating from middle school. He had also secured a position as a designer at a different stationery company. "Congrats on your offer too, David. Let's both do our best," I said. And so, we both started our careers as designers. Once I joined a company, I worked hard. I was fulfilling my dream job, so every day was enriching. I studied tirelessly, not wanting to fall behind my colleagues. My efforts were recognized by my boss then, Jason, who let me handle the design of new products in my first year. Unknowingly, I became one of the most successful among my peers. The good news continued. In my second year, I started dating a woman from the same company. Her name was Jennifer. She was a beautiful woman with big, expressive eyes. When I worked late, she would tell me, "Don't push yourself too hard." I was drawn to her kindness. A year after we started dating, I proposed to her in a fancy restaurant, and we happily became husband and wife. On our days off, we enjoyed shopping together and had a great time. Divorce seemed like something that would never happen to us. However, in my fourth year at the company, an incident occurred that disrupted our happy days. My direct boss changed. His name was Michael. Michael was the worst, unlike his predecessor, Jason. He was terribly biased. While Jason listened to the opinions of all his subordinates, Michael only valued the opinions of the employees he liked and coldly brushed off the others. I don't know why, but Michael had it in for me and treated me especially harshly. "This design is no good at all. What were you thinking?" Michael would say things like this and berate my proposals. My hard-won ideas were dismissed without proper consideration, which was incredibly stressful. But I didn't do anything rash. Michael was moody and could suddenly become nice to people he disliked if they achieved something like winning an external competition. Before Michael arrived, I had occasionally been commended in company competitions, so I thought if I won the next one, his attitude might change. Besides, there might be another position shuffle in time. I might get transferred to a different department. So, I decided to stay calm and ride it out without causing any waves. When things got unbearable, I vented to David and Jennifer. Talking about it really did make me feel better, significantly lightening my worries. As I was getting through my days like this, another company competition was approaching. I worked tirelessly, sparing no effort for my ideas. And it paid off. I created what I thought was my best design yet and submitted it. On the day of the results, I won first place. The winning design would be commercialized. Thinking of my design being held by so many people filled me with excitement. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Even Michael, who had been so sarcastic before, came over with an almost fake smile. Thank you very much. Maybe this would improve my relationship with Michael. I went home with a light heart, feeling relieved. But 3 days later, when I arrived at work as usual, the place was in an uproar. Robert, come here. Michael called me over with a stern face. What the heck is this? He yelled, slamming some documents in front of me. They were labeled new product and showed product images. The problem was the design. Although different in the details, it closely resembled the design I submitted in the competition. This is a new product announcement from a rival company. It's almost identical to your design. Clearly, information has been leaked. Even though he accused me, I had no idea about it. But one thing did bother me. The rival company was the one where David worked. But no matter how close I was to a friend, I wouldn't leak such crucial designs. I haven't done anything. That was all I could answer. Michael looked skeptical and tossed the documents aside. There's an internal investigation underway. The culprit will be found soon enough. But who would leak information like this? I couldn't help but think about it, even back at my desk. I was anxious but decided to wait for the investigation results. The next day, Michael told me to go to the manager's office. The results of the internal investigation are out. Go and find out quickly. Michael looked strangely cheerful. I was concerned but headed to the manager's office anyway. Excuse me. As I entered, the manager, Chris, was sitting at his desk with a grim expression. I heard the results of the internal investigation are out. Who was the culprit? When I asked, Chris let out an exaggerated sigh. Why don't you stop playing dumb? You're the culprit, aren't you? Wait a minute, what do you mean? I was taken aback by these unexpected words. Chris turned his sharp gaze towards me. It turns out that a friend of yours from middle school works at that rival company. You probably wanted to help your friend by intentionally leaking the design. That's nonsense. I don't know anything about this. Despite my desperate plea, Chris wouldn't listen. Lately, their company's sales have been declining. You probably wanted to help your friend by intentionally leaking the design. Keep your friendship games outside of work. That's not true. Please listen to me. Enough. Since you leaked crucial information, you're naturally fired. Don't bother coming back. My protests were futile, and I left the manager's office feeling dejected. When I returned to my desk, Michael approached me, seizing the opportunity. You traitor. I feel so relieved now that you're gone. His words pierced my heart. To think my precious idea was leaked and then I was framed for it. I was anxious about what to do next, but there was something more pressing that I had to take care of first. I needed to talk to my wife, Jennifer, about all of this. When I got home, I told Jennifer everything. I'll find a job soon. I promise not to make you struggle, so please stay with me. I was sure Jennifer would believe me and stand by me. But then she said something unbelievable. What are you talking about? I want a divorce. What? I married you because you were a breadwinner. I thought I'd found a convenient ATM machine, so I wouldn't have to worry about money. But now that you're fired, an ATM, is that how you saw me? Yes. If you can't earn money, there's no point in being married. It seemed I was the only one who thought we had a loving home. There was never any love to begin with. Why did I fall for someone like Jennifer? What did I see in her? What are you standing there for? Get ready to leave. I was so dismayed by her harsh words that I couldn't even respond. It's better to cut ties with such a woman. I'll treat it like a bad dream and move on. I decided to accept the divorce. It was a surprisingly swift ending. The next day, I was drinking at a pub with David. I just couldn't handle it without a drink. After showing him the design I submitted for the competition and telling him everything, David was both shocked and angry at Jennifer and my bosses. It's terrible to marry someone for their money, and there's no way you'd leak information. Thanks, I'm glad you say that. Feeling David believed in me was a relief. I was grateful to have met him. Robert, we can't let this end like this, let's fight back. David was still angry and made a suggestion. But how do we fight back? The guy who passed off your design as his own is in the same department. Actually, he's the son of your former boss, Michael, but he has no real talent and was about to be transferred to another department. Is that so? Michael leaked my design for his son's sake. It seems like it, and the designs he submitted were completely different from his previous ones. I thought it was strange, but I never imagined he'd plagiarize someone else's ideas. It all made sense as a story, but there wasn't a single piece of evidence to prove it. When I mentioned this to David, he said, "I'll try talking to Michael's son tomorrow." The next day, David called me. "How did it go?" "Sorry, I couldn't find any evidence." David sounded dejected. "Michael's son insists he didn't know anything and that it was all his idea. He even threatened me, saying he wouldn't tolerate any further inquiries." I see. It's not easy to admit to a crime. I was somewhat expecting this, but it still brought me down. "I'm sorry, but this is all I can do for you." "I understand. It's okay, David. You've done enough." I didn't want to trouble David further, and I was grateful for his help. After thanking him, I ended the call. 2 days later, I was on my way to an interview with a company. I thought I couldn't afford to mope around, so I started looking for a new job. I hope I can find a job quickly. I was walking with a feeling of unease. That's when I spotted something large by the roadside. "What's that?" As I approached, I realized it was a person, lying motionless on the road. She was pregnant, judging by her big belly. "Are you okay?" The woman lying down was very pale and only grimaced in response to my calls. I quickly called an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance, I comforted her, rubbing her back and reassuring her that everything would be all right. The ambulance arrived in about 5 minutes and immediately took her to the hospital. An EMT asked me to come along, so I accompanied her to the hospital. Upon arrival, she received immediate medical attention. Both mother and child were safe. That's a relief. I felt a wave of relief and exhaustion wash over me. "You can see how she's doing now. Are you her husband?" asked the doctor. I was surprised. "I'm not her husband. I just happened to be there." "Oh, I see. I heard from the EMTs that you were her husband. My apologies for the misunderstanding." Right around when the misunderstanding was cleared up, her real husband arrived. His name was Ethan, and the woman's name was Emily. Ethan looked me in the eye and shook my hand. "Thank you so much for helping my wife. I'd like to thank you properly later. Could I get your contact information?" So, we exchanged contacts. That's when I suddenly remembered about the interview. Looking at my watch, I realized I had missed the appointment time. I tried contacting them anyway, but they said it was too late for the interview. I was glad Emily was safe, but it seemed I just didn't have any luck. All the preparation I did for the interview was for nothing. Feeling down, I left the hospital. Several days later, I received a call from Emily. She wanted to thank me and asked me to come to her house. When I arrived at the address she provided, Emily and Ethan greeted me. Emily looked much better, and it was clear that she was okay now. "Thank you for the other day. Please make yourself comfortable today," she said. The dining table was laden with a lavish spread of food. Emily and Ethan said they had prepared it together. "Then, I'll gladly accept your hospitality." Every dish was delicious, and before I knew it, I was enjoying the meal heartily. They served alcohol too, and I found myself getting tipsy. At some point, the conversation turned to work. Fueled by the alcohol, I ended up spilling everything about being harassed by my boss, being wrongly accused and fired, and even my divorce. After I finished, Ethan and Emily looked contemplative. I was wondering what they were thinking when suddenly, Emily said something unexpected. "Robert, aren't you angry about being treated so terribly? If you want to fight back, we'll help you." I was taken aback by her sudden offer. I did feel awful about being wronged, but without any evidence, I thought I had no choice but to accept my fate. "I appreciate it, but without evidence, there's nothing we can do." That's when Ethan smiled. "Actually, I'm a detective. I can conduct various investigations. Plus, Emily's sister, Lisa, is a lawyer. We can surely help you." Really, I was surprised by this sudden turn of events. "Robert, you're a wonderful person who doesn't hesitate to help others in need. It's wrong for someone like you to be treated so unfairly. Let's prove your innocence." Encouraged by Emily's strong words, I made up my mind. "Okay, please help me." I nodded and asked for their assistance. A week later, Ethan reported back on his investigation. I first approached Michael's son. I pretended to bump into him at a pub and struck up a conversation. When he let his guard down, he spilled that he had stolen Robert's idea with his father's help and presented it as his own. Moreover, Michael had bribed his son's superior to turn a blind eye to the wrongdoing. The involvement even reached the supervisor at the rival company. I was surprised by the extent of the misconduct, which was beyond anything I had imagined. I recorded everything Michael's son said on a voice recorder. "Thank you, but I'm concerned about something. I submitted my competition design directly to the employee organizing the contest, not to Michael. Submitted designs are strictly managed, so Michael shouldn't have been able to get his hands on it. How did he pass my design to his son?" Ethan hesitated before speaking. "About that, it seems your ex-wife Jennifer is involved. Didn't you bring the design home to work on it before submitting?" "Yes, I did. I worked on the idea and made revisions at home." "Are you saying Jennifer stole the design while I was off guard and gave it to Michael?" "It's possible. From what I've found, Jennifer was apparently having an affair with Michael." Ethan showed me a photo. There were Michael and Jennifer, looking intimate as they entered a hotel. I can't believe this. I was shocked and angered. It's unforgivable that they did this behind my back. "Yes, Lisa has approached your former company and arranged a meeting with Michael to reveal the truth." A few days later, I went to my former company with Lisa. In the reception room, Michael was waiting. I explained our deductions based on the evidence, trying to contain my anger. But Michael was stubborn and refused to admit anything. I couldn't back down now. As I persisted, Michael finally lost his temper. "Enough of your accusations. If you continue, I'll have you thrown out." That's when it happened. "Perhaps you should calm down a bit," President Thompson said as he entered the reception room. At his entrance, Michael immediately turned pale. "Michael, all the evidence is here. It's in your best interest to admit it." Faced with Mr. Thompson's imposing demeanor, Michael's expression turned to one of fear. Finally, it seemed he resigned himself to the truth and admitted to conspiring with Jennifer to leak the information. He explained that he had plotted this to help his designer's aspiring son and to take me down, as I was a rising star and in the way. Mr. Thompson turned to me. "I apologize for firing you based on a careless investigation. The dismissal is, of course, revoked. I heard from your previous boss, Jason, about your dedication. If you are willing, would you come back? Of course, you would work in your former department as a designer." I felt the anger inside me dissipate. The joy of being able to work as a designer again welled up in me. "Thank you very much. I would be happy to return." Thus, I was able to return to my calling as a designer. Jason became my boss again, and the workplace became more comfortable. Michael was fired, and Chris, who conducted the careless investigation, was demoted. I sued Jennifer and Michael for their affair and demanded compensation. Their payment caused them a lot of difficulties. Furthermore, David told me that Michael's son and his supervisor, who had joined in the misconduct, were also exposed and fired. Justice was served to the wrongdoers, and I finally felt at ease. It was a tough ordeal, but good things came from it. I started a relationship with Ethan's family, especially with Lisa. We got along well, eventually leading to dating and marriage. Lisa is a woman of strong justice, and this time, I was able to build a home full of love. I worked harder than ever at my job and was promoted. I am deeply grateful to those who helped me when I was at my lowest. I plan to cherish those people and continue living an honest life.